Welcome to Haunted Grove, a horrific podcast. I don't know why there was that big of a gap. Haunted Grove is a horror media review podcast with no set schedule, no censorship, and no idea how we've not been banned from the internet as of yet.
It's coming.
It's fucking, well, I mean, it's probably because it's the first episode. We'll get there. We'll get banned eventually.
We're aspirational.
It won't be for lack of trying.
Yeah. Your horrific hosts for this episode are Colin, Cameron, and Adam. And today we're presenting you with a spoiler review of Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, starring Thomasin, McKensie, and Anya Taylor-Joy. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
Some of us really liked this movie.
Others not so much.
I wonder who's the one that likes it.
No idea.
Got a onesie
Because
with Last Night in
Cameron
Soho.
and I agree on everything.
God, I wish
so-
this was a fucking onesie. I'd die in it.
Before we begin,
Yeah.
why do we always have to fucking say spoiler review? If you're that weak of character that you can't just go and watch a movie without watching fucking 20 reviews of it, you're that cowardly, fucking get over yourselves.
Right? And that's such a fucking thing. I know people like that. I don't get it. Like,
I'll
just
have to
go
hear what 100
fucking
people
watch
think.
something.
Yeah, I
Guess
mean,
what? If it-
I guess the only reason why I would look at a review after the trailer is because a lot of trailers are misleading. Like they,
Oh, yeah, that's
and it
part of
seems
it, of
like
course.
this weird. Everything has to be super hyped up and excited in a trailer, and it's got the pulse beating, 100 beats per second. And then you go see the film, and it doesn't have that tone, and you don't feel that excitement because of the cut has to be, just so to fit in with regular streaming online. And so that's why I like to watch reviews. But yeah, the spoiler thing, if you're watching a review, you're kind of putting one foot in the door. Like you should
Right.
expect to see something you don't want to see, like, or that you will end up seeing in the actual cinema. Doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah, but it's just people getting so precious about it. I think it's, like I said, if you're that worried, just go watch the thing.
Yeah.
Take a chance.
Yeah.
But don't sit and fucking cry and moan about, oh, they told me part of the plot. Oh, I've ruined my enjoyment. You're the one fucking clicked. You knew the movie. You haven't seen it yet. It's on you. So fuck off.
Yeah. So enjoy our review.
Fuck yeah.
Yes,
And we're
room for
about to
sympathy
get
in this
canceled.
panel.
So the log line of this show, because again, this is one of those trailers that leads you to believe it's all just crazy murder action, and you don't really understand the plot at all based on the trailer. At least I didn't. I came into this with a very different perspective of what I actually ended up seeing, and the only reason why I had any
Same.
clue was because of what you told me, Colin. I'm sorry, Cameron. So I'm going to get these C's mixed up, guys.
It happens.
Can one of you change your name to Steve or something, just for simplicity? Fucking Steve.
We'll both
all right.
do it.
So the log line is thus: an aspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter 1960s, where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer. But the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker. This is a 2021 British psychological horror film directed by Edgar Wright, co-written by Wright and Christy Wilson Cairns. Cinematography is by Hoon Chung. I wanted to call that out incorrectly, probably with my pronunciation, because this is a beautiful film.
Yeah.
Like looking at it. And one thing I liked about Wright is that he'd never worked with Chung before, and he'd always wanted to because he admired what he could do with the camera. And he was saying that a lot of these, he storyboards out his entire film like most professionals. And so when Chung would come into the room or get behind the camera, he would suggest angles and directions that Wright hadn't even considered. And that's, you see this really wonderful collaboration. I think this does feel different than Wright's other films, not just because it is a different style of film, but also because of that influence, outside influence on him, which I think was great. This is released in 29 October 2021 with a budget of $43 million. And again, this music in this, if you like the 60s, is great. And the score, I think, is also great. And the score was done by Stephen Price. So thoughts?
And it's on wax, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see some of the right influences as you go
Mm-hmm.
through because it's like, oh, something familiar, and then you have to, oh, hold on a minute, yeah, that's like such and such.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't see that until last night because, I mean, prior to us talking about it, I didn't really consider that this is the same dude that did the Shaun of the Dead trilogy.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then having known that, because, I mean, I know the fucking name, but it just never clicked. And watching it last night, every time there was a very strong, like, oh, that's an Edgar Wright thing, I'd chuckle. Didn't take me out of the movie, though, so that was nice.
no, and that's good, and it's actually good to see that this is a new genre for him. I don't think he's done other horror before, so
Not like
the fact he's able to take from comedy, the over the top, and actually bring that into horror movie and make it enjoyable, like brilliant to see. This is what I miss about movie making, because the mediocrity over the last couple of years has just been ridiculous, and fucking people can't even survive being on set now in movies because they're that stupid. But we'll not talk about that in case we get sued.
Right. Well, I mean, one thing that's really great about this is that, Wright, in even his comedies, they have this undertone. Hot Fuzz had an undertone of horror to it. Shaun of the Dead, the setting is in this horror
Shaun of the Dead's
element.
a fucking horror movie.
But this is much more of a suspenseful thriller than it is even a horror film at all. But it does have those elements, especially in the third act. I wanted to talk about the act structure in this because I found it unsettling and uneven in tone. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, straight up. But I mean, that's like we were talking about before we started recording. I mean, that's something that's so standard almost with this subset of genre. Because I mean, for those who don't know, basically he made a giallo film, which is a late 70s or mid to late 70s style Italian murder mystery. And that was so prominent with that genre where it's just all over the place. It's a lot like jazz where there's not a set structure, there's not a set narrative. It's just kind of all over the place and really loud and extravagant in parts and then really quiet and mild in parts. So I mean, he really stuck with that pretty well. And I mean, that's one thing I did like is there's so many nods to classic giallo films in this that, everyone, like if you're into that kind of shit, you're going to giggle every time. Like when she was leaving the club on Halloween, I laughed my ass off the first time I saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, because the club is Inferno and it's the exact same font as the movie.
Oh, shit. I did not catch that.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's an Easter eggy type thing. You'd have to go through, scene by scene and sort of look at the references. It's very subtle wove through, which is good to sort of make it. I'm sick and tired of paint by numbers movies at the moment, and it's good. I like warped reality. That's my sort of favorite horror trope anyway. So is the protagonist, are they in reality? Are they out of reality? Is this their mind or is it really happening? I talked about this in an episode before. Like, I love that thing. As long as it ties up together in the end, that's the important thing. And this did. Now, if I had just left it ambiguous and at the end, I wouldn't have enjoyed this movie, but they managed to tie it up really well. The first act threw me because, as you read out in the premise, she travelled back to the 60s, but the opening scene is her listening to 60s music and 60s dress, dancing through a house. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So that's what threw me initially until realised that she was from Cornwall, which is Celtic for cousin's wedding. So
one thing that's interesting about this for me is that it really took some cues from Suspiria, maybe a little bit too much. And in fact, it was originally going to be a dance college rather than a fashion college that she was going to be going to. And that, I think, would have been way over the top and way too close to Suspiria.
I'm glad he kept it a little separate because there's a difference between nodding your hat to the masters and just fucking ripping off their shit.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about jazz because there are so many elements that make this its own creature. You have The Shining, I'm going to reference, just her sort of ability to see the dead, as it were. We get that with her mom at the very beginning. And then, of course, it goes all throughout. We get time travel and time travel devices. And specifically, the music is used as a time travel device for her. And then her shine literally puts her into this other sort of universe in the past. So, and clearly what she's seeing and what she's able to interact with isn't literally the past, but it does give you this really interesting sort of jazz-like structure of it's not normal. This is something that you can just sort of sit back and enjoy the obscurity and the originality of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the plot. There is a plot to this movie. There is a mystery to solve.
Yeah.
And there are bits by bits go through it. So while that's loose structures there's still a storyline and a plot. And you've got a beginning of a movie and an end of a movie, which is important.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that, which this is where this genre can go wrong, or this attempt, is by not having that. And that's what's clever. They have that narrative, the beginning, the end, and she is solving the mystery and getting more pieces of the puzzle as she goes along. But the traveling then starts to take over. So she was in control at the start, and then it gets in control, and that's where you see the difference. You know, where she's losing her grip in reality because the entity, as such, is running the narrative then for her, and then she's having to put herself back to get back in control again.
Yeah,
and that's that struggle which is played throughout the movie, which is quite cool.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah, and it's great because it's almost like you can check a mark on a box every time she falls down further and further. Like you can see it just even in her mannerisms and shit, like how far down the rabbit hole she's getting. It's so much fun.
Yeah, like Wright was saying, it's his obsession with the 60s that shaped the themes in the film. And he says, sometimes I find truly nightmarish, and I guess there's an element where I'm sort of giving a sharp rebuke to myself, is the danger of being overly nostalgic about previous decades. And in a way, the film is about romanticizing the past and why it's wrong to do that. I thought that was such an interesting quote, because it's one thing that we always do. We reflect on everything, decades past, or movies or films or whatever, with our modern sensibilities. And that is poisonous. Not only are you changing what you supposedly like about the reality of the past, but then you're also not even directly referencing the past because you're, again, using your modern sensibilities. Now, this is the whole cancel culture. I don't want to get into it, but that is the direct reaction of this type of behavior. But that's the end point of this type of behavior. And so it's so important that, in at least with this film, that he's presenting this reality of the 60s. No, there's a seedy underbelly that is disgusting and revolting, that is real about the 60s. It's not just all hippies and love-ins, which I thought was great.
No, especially
which is bad enough as is.
This city is a shithole. Like, honestly, it's really bad.
Yeah, so everyone, he's there right now.
In fact, I'm just on the outskirts now. I was in South London was referenced, and I was living there last year, and holy fuck, that place is it's bad, man. Even with everybody locked down, it was still managed to be bad. People still getting shot and stuff.
Oh shit,
Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, a reference I really got. You probably went over both your heads was Cilla Black. The singer at the start. She is like a UK icon. She passed away a few years ago, but when she was singing, she was like next up there with the Beatles.
Oh, really?
In terms of popularity. And then she was a TV talk show host for decades, like right up until like late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So she was like, anybody British hearing Cilla Black, I'm like, whoa. And then I have family in Liverpool, and that's where she's from, and she's idolized her, in that city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as soon as you told me that, like you told me that before we rewatched it, so I did do a little bit of research on her, and then watching the movie, it's like, man, she's pretty fucking prominent in this. Like, he wasn't fucking around trying to make sure.
Yeah, I laughed, and then I just realized you probably wouldn't get that,
Yeah, no.
So that's why I thought I'd bring it up and let you know, because like fucking hell, like that's normally you don't get that overt. Here's a reference on a superstar at the time.
Right. Well, Diana
especially
Rigg,
to have
she
her
was a big
actually
star too.
Like, that was the crazy part, because I mean, the person they got playing her, that was spot on.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, Miss Alexander Collins, the older version of Sandy, they dedicated the film because she died before it was actually released in cinema, but it was also one of those icons, right? Of the time. Like, she had done tons of film and stuff, and she was actually in those locations as a kid. And so when she went on set, she was like, wow, I remember going down that staircase, and just reflecting back on the 60s street lines and stuff like that. So they really did their homework to get it as authentic as they possibly could, and even shutting down Soho, parts of the street and stuff for it.
Which that was awesome to watch the behind the scenes, like how they did actually go on set or on location rather, because I mean that's something that's so rare, and it's in most times it's really not that necessary.
Right.
Like you can do an exterior shot and then just replay that, and then do it all on a soundstage.
Yeah.
Or so the fact that they actually did do it there was just it was something they didn't need to do, but it did make the movie that much better.
Yeah. One thing that I really loved about this film was the camera work. Anytime you look at a mirror and you don't see a camera, there's some technical expertise behind the screen. Like, and the fact that they had, the two different actresses in the same reflection, and they had done tons of work, before they were actually going to be filming any of the scenes to try to get their mannerisms and their behaviors down. But
it was really sharp.
Yeah, but watching the dancing scenes like that
was
just
beautiful.
Watching the film, I didn't think of it at all. I just thought there was cutaways, but there's not cutaways. This is a continuous shot with the camera work, and so they're dancing. All three of them all together. Sometimes they're ducking down out of camera view so they can spin around and wait for their next cue to jump back up and switch back in. But knowing it's a continuous shot and looking at it through that lens, that's a technical masterpiece to be able to pull off. I was really blown away by that. And of course, again, just the mirror work. I've worked with mirrors just trying to get a static photo shoot for clients, from time to time. And it is a pain in the ass trying to get the right lighting and everything. And they pulled it off without digital effects until, sort of setting in new backdrops and stuff like that. But they would have mirror sets to each other to create that illusion of a mirror, which is just fucking fantastic, that stuff.
Yeah, really well done. You can see that. I think that's why this is a visual masterpiece. You know what I mean? Even if not understanding the plot, to watch this movie from a visual point of view, just to enjoy the work that's been put into it. It was fun, and it's been ages since I've seen a movie like that. I think that's what was refreshing. It's been a while.
Yeah, there's premise that are really great, and the execution maybe isn't so great. This, I think the premise was pretty solid, if not great, and the execution was just perfection. Like, it was just done so well, and by the guy who did Shaun of the Dead. I mean, I would never expect that out of him. I'm really excited to see what comes next.
Another example is Peter Jackson. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Here's the man,
That's true.
dead alive, bad taste. And then he pulls fucking Lord of the Rings out of the bag. Do you know what I mean? So there must be something about these quirky directors that.
To be fair, if you watch The Frighteners, you kind of get that in between stage. Then it makes sense. But no, it's true. It's always the ones you kind of sleep on that just once they get a budget, just fucking blow your mind. Yeah.
I'm stoked. So it was Thomasin McKensie, who is Eloise, who's the main character of this, and we're following her throughout the entire film. Anna Taylor-Joy, of course, is brilliant in everything she's ever done. I love this woman. Her name is Sandy in this. The older version of Sandy is, again, Diana Rigg. Matt Smith plays Jack. Not a big Matt Smith fan, and I did not like him in this role. There's something about
I thought
his
this was
face.
the role he was born for.
Oh, really?
To be honest, yeah. I mean, I don't really much care for him either. I mean, aside from kind of liking his Doctor Who, but
he was given those vibes at the start. He was doing a bit of Doctor Who type, like the run around action at the beginning.
Yeah. I liked him as a bad guy. There's something visually about him, and it looks like he doesn't have eyebrows. Maybe that's it. Like, there's something about him as the actor. You have marks there, so that's different than just like Roger Waters, shaving it completely off.
I have fucking eyebrows to spare. I can lend people some.
Like, hey, Matt,
you get questions every year.
So I don't know what it was. There's something about him, like maybe it was his hair. Like, I'm really a superficial person, but if one thing just rings weird for me, then it just taints the entire performance. And the truth is, he did a really good job, and he is great in the role. I'm just a prick, so.
See, it's funny because for both me and my wife, it was Thomasin McKensie that was the hard part of the movie.
Yeah, dude.
Just that voice, man. It was like nails on chalkboard.
It was like a watered down. She's trying to do a Cornish accent, and you can tell she's not from Cornwall.
Mhm.
And
Well,
that's the thing about the
apparently
UK.
she's a Kiwi, so it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense as to why she sounds like that.
Right.
Anybody from outside the UK trying to do, there's 40 plus different accents
Jeez.
in this group of islands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can go 6 miles up the road and get a different accent, and it's completely different.
Right.
Do research, honestly, on UK accents. It'll blow your mind. And for somebody to come from outside and try and get their head around that one little particular bit
Mm-hmm.
is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So fair play to anybody who tried. We could just tell she was struggling trying to put that. Basically, what the premise is once again somebody coming from outside London into London,
Yep.
and that alone is this. Like we keep referencing, this city is a bit much. It's true. There's no city in the world like this city.
Mhm.
It's just on steroids all the time. It's the only way to put it. You know, that's just London. So that's overwhelming itself. So they're trying to get that whole thing of her maintaining, you know, being from outside London, because she could have done the generic English accent, but it wouldn't have worked. She had to be from the countryside coming in, because that was part of the plot. And you could tell she's struggling with the accent. You know, she's just like having to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like what's her face in Cobra Kai trying to do karate moves. The wee girl that plays Sam, like you can tell she's trying to think about the moves because she's not au fait, and you can tell this actress is trying to do the accent, you know, and actually having to think about her words.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can safely nitpick, you know, parts of an actor or a performance or a film and still love it. So I don't want people watching this thinking that we're tearing it apart. Like, we're just being
We're
honest.
nerds,
And
that's
No,
what
I
nerds
still
do.
like.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this fucking movie. Like, I had a very hard time going to bed last night because I wanted to watch it again after watching the special features. Like,
I love this.
I
special
heard
features.
to
this
say that
movie, and I'm a tight bastard.
Yeah.
There you go.
yeah, to say
I should
that.
say enough.
Yeah, to say I didn't like her performance it's not true. Like, I did enjoy her performance. It's just, yeah, her voice kind of, it never took me out, but it was like,
Mhm.
pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, I was a little bit thrown off by her roommate. She was so on the nose, like, oh, she's the bitch girl. She's the mean girl. It's just like, do we have to go that far every time just to show that this is a trope? Like, I don't know. I thought they were a little too on the
But
nose.
thankfully, that became a background.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If that had been a prevalent throughout the movie, I'd have switched off.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh, fuck off. You know, if this is going to be. But thankfully, like, I think halfway into the second act, that became background.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it was just trying to, once again, it's trying to build a premise of somebody coming from outside the big city, coming into it, you know, and the shock.
Yeah.
And maybe that was trying to mask the trauma of what was actually going on. You know, even her grandmother, if you remember from the beginning, she's having a conversation with her grandmother, who knows she has abilities because her mother did.
Yep.
And one of the things she was saying about being in proximity to people, and that would be difficult for her. So they were trying to set this up that because of her abilities, which they didn't really delve into, like her abilities weren't explained. They were just there, but it was hinted at that her abilities were known about. It was a family trait. It's a thing, but they didn't go into it. Like The Shining, for example, you know, The Shining went in a bit more. She had a mentor, which I thought that Terrence Stamp character might have been the mentor.
Oh, yeah.
I was another misdirection. You know, I thought maybe somebody's going to explain to her about her abilities, but they didn't. You know, what I mean, they just had it there. But I think that was the whole setup.
Yeah.
And then coming into London, meeting the bitch girl, but then it was setting her up to move into that house. And I was misdirected again because I thought she was going to follow her mother's trail. I thought that was the point of this movie.
Right.
That she was going to follow her mother's trail, that maybe her mother's suicide wasn't a suicide.
Right.
I never caught that. That's
what I thought.
interesting
She was
way
trying
to
to
look at
retrace her mother, and initially, I know the actress that played her mother appeared in the mirror, but it was just a brief glimpse. But when I first saw the character of Sam, I was wondering, fuck, is this her mother? Is she trying to connect or solve the mystery?
Right.
And then it became, like, halfway through the movie, it became apparent this is not the case. It's a completely different story.
Right.
But the incentive was centered there, you know. I thought that was their original plan, but then misdirection to keep you on your toes, that you had to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because if it had been a by numbers movie, you'd have just been like, oh, right, okay, tick, tick, but it wasn't.
Right.
You had to actually pay attention to what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mind that they didn't explain the powers at all. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a spiral effect
No,
that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I appreciated that they didn't, because the whole time you kind of think, okay, is she just fucking crazy,
Yeah.
or does she actually have the ability to, see dead people essentially? So it kind of keeps you on that knife's edge of, is she going insane, or is she just getting fucked?
Right, and then how do you address it? And I wasn't trying to imply that did bug you, Colin, at all. But how would you address her power in a way that did not try to play off an existing trope again? I mean, you just have to either address it wholeheartedly and try to go crazy with it, or just say, fuck it, we're not going to talk about it at all. And they took that approach, and I really appreciated that. Because ultimately,
I was hinted it wasn't just medium abilities; it was also psychic abilities as well.
Yeah.
So that's where the grandmother was saying about being in close proximity to people, because she picks up.
Yeah.
So it then became obvious that when she moves in, the landlady, it's her psychic aura she's picking up on, as well as from the dead.
Yeah.
It was a combination, which, if you're dealing with two things at once, two different sets of powers or influences, that's where it's spiraling out of control. So if she was just maybe following the dead, she might have been more in control. Or if she was just following people's psychic, auras that they were giving off, she might have been more in control. But she's getting bombarded with two very strong essences here at the same time, which then shows how it's unraveling, because it's two competing forces.
Oh yeah. Well, and then to top it off, the stress of going to school and leaving her.
Yeah, that's why I think that's where that character, the pointless bitch character, and they're moving to London and spending so long in that setup, then makes sense. Where like I said, if it hadn't been the plot, what I said earlier, from the beginning to the end, this film could have went off the rails very quickly, and you could have just switched off. But it's clear there's a plan.
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciated about it. So I was able to go along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. You can watch this film and get so many different takeaways from it. You can see it as, well, this is a coming into your own set of psychic powers type film. You can look at it and see this is a time travel film. I want to talk about the time travel element of it for a second, because they use the combination of the music with her abilities to send her through time in a different and interesting way, because she literally wasn't physically transporting. It was like this imaginary transportation. It was when she was sleeping, and then, they would get glimpses of it at different moments throughout the film as she sort of was losing herself she was losing her conscience in the now and mixing it with the had been, traveling through time. So is this a tether issue where she's getting sucked through and she can't control her own abilities, or is it that she's altering time by being a part of it? Because we do see her interact with Sandy a little bit. We see her interact with Matt Smith's character Jack a little bit. And that's a key to how she's losing her mind, is that what is reality to her at this moment? Is it the past or is it the now?
It's classic sleep deprivation. The classic symptoms of sleep deprivation. So this is getting into her waking dream. So therefore, she's not getting REM sleep. She's being transported. So she's actually mentally awake in her dreams. So that bit of the body is getting cut off. So she's not actually getting proper REM sleep. So if you think she's maybe getting 1 hour sleep a night, and then what we're seeing is she's essentially, though she might be going to bed, she might be closing her eyes, she's not sleeping.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing here is a classic insomniac, going through stress of the working day, then coming back. Now, then she's working in a pub. Oh, we'll talk about the pub because that was hilarious. But she's working part-time job, and then she's not sleeping at night. So we're seeing her body actually degrade as she's going through this movie on top of everything else. So that was clever. The fact he's able to thought about this and is able to demonstrate it. So therefore, when she is falling asleep, that's how it's able to creep in, because she's not like going getting her full 8 hours, waking up refreshed. She's being degraded as the time goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's leaving a toll for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What were some of your favorite moments of it? You mentioned the pub. You want to talk about the pub?
Yeah, so he works at the pub, and a couple of times he was there and said, I had to cover your shift for an hour. There's like one person in the fucking basement bar, like 3 people. Where have you been? There's a customer. You know, there's
Yeah, you got
two customers upstairs. She goes down. Turns that's character's like, what the fuck? If it was bouncing, I mean, the bar and like lined up, I could understand. If it's like empty, everyone served drinks. There's nobody at the bar, and they're freaking out as if the end of the world. You know, like how she even got a job there doesn't make sense because there's like about fucking 20 bar staff and about 3 customers.
Yeah.
So the whole bar setup was like quite funny, you know, quite tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it was weird because the upper part of the bar was packed with the youth. The lower part was supposed to be like the older clientele, or just sort of the seedier kind. But there wasn't much going on. I mean, there were scenes where there was
a
bunch
that's a typical
of
Irish bar because, like back home, big bar called Lavery's. That's the same. The bottom bar is always like the locals. Upstairs is always like the / nightclub, and then they even have a 3rd level, which is like pure nightclub. So it's like different levels. So if you're just going for a pint, you go into like the ground floor, and that's like the older crowd, and that generally finishes about 11. But then you've got the like younger studenty crowd in the middle, and then you've got nightclub. You know, it's most bars are like tiered like that anyway.
Interesting.
So that's
I mean, we
UK
have
thing.
some out here like
UK bar culture and American bar culture are completely different.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it works in level. So that's always, I mean, you've always got the one level because it's the locals that come in during the week and keep the doors open, and then it's the younger ones that come in at the weekend. But where the problems are, if the younger ones come in, like the older crowd, there's always problems.
Yeah.
And then they push the older crowd out, and then they can't keep their lights on. So bars have evolved over years of having 2 levels, and it's always been like that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not a bar guy, so I don't even know bar culture here. You know, I'm much more go to the liquor store, come home kind of guy.
Yeah.
Nah, I appreciate that.
And it's so weird too, trying to like get into that shit, like having the 2 years of not being able to go out and do anything. First guy going out to a bar that I pretty much lived at as a child. It's like, man, this is how much it costs to get drunk here. Ugh, and there's people. God, I don't know if I like this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like, man, I could take just this $40, grab a bottle of wild turkey, and destroy myself at home. God,
without the drama.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't want to get into ratings yet. Is there anything else? Let's talk about your favorite part of this film. If there's one thing that you could call out, what would it be for you guys?
So for me, just strictly like how beautifully shot it was and how well lit it was. Like it was just that classic hyper reality that you get in giallo films, especially with masters like Argento. I mean, it's just so heavy on, primary colors and just really washing everything out with it. I mean, I live for that shit. Like, so, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a single part of the movie,
right?
But the throughout of the movie, that just like I could put this shit on the background and enjoy it just as much as if I was like actually watching it because of that.
Oh yeah. What do you think, Colin?
Me towards the end, the staircase thing, that I thought that was beautifully done.
Fucking killer.
Like, you've got this old creaky house burning down, and then it changed to a glass staircase, and then the warped reality still happening, and she's still like switching between the older Sandy and the younger Sandy, and still trying to save her, and like that whole thing, it was just beautifully done.
Oh yeah.
And even the fact that this woman was about the murderer, she's still trying to save her, and it just showed that the connection had been made between the two of them during the journey. And I don't know how much of the older woman was connected. Do you know what I mean? Was she, because it was obviously her psychic aura was being brought out, but there was definitely a connection there between them. And
yeah, I don't know.
It was just the way it was.
I'm not sure the older Sandy was fully aware.
But there was something there, you know what I mean? It was a hint of something being there.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it was almost like, if you go into like the different styles of hauntings where, you get your residuals and you get your actual spirits, like for me, the way it seemed was it was residual, like it was basically like a tape playing over and over again. And that's how she was able to interact with it. And, not because, I mean, of course, she wasn't necessarily time traveling. So
you saw the older Sandy and the younger Sandy actually come together at that last scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're both different
Oh,
entities,
okay,
but you could see them coming together into the one
Yeah,
entity.
yeah.
No way she denied her younger self, said her younger self died.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a separate person, but then you see the two of them actually become the whole Sandy at that last scene in the bedroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you see that whole play out all the way up the stairs, all the way into the corridor. And I just thought the way that was absolutely beautiful, the way it was done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think my favorite part was the slipping through the psychic time barrier. The fact that they had these faceless men, the ghouls, as it were, like slowly creeping into her real life, and she's getting these flashes. But from a film viewer's perspective, you're like, oh, those are just echoes of the past. They can't affect her at all. They can't even touch her. And yet they do. And they start to manipulate her. I thought it let down at the very end when they were like, kill her, kill her. I was like, all right. You didn't have to go that far. But, you know, just to have them there as a presence, as a physical manifestation of this psychic history, I thought was so creepy and so well done.
Oh, yeah.
I just love how they're like breaking through the floors and the walls, and then the way that they masked the faces was great. I really loved it.
Yeah, shit was creepy.
Yeah.
Because you didn't understand what it was about. Because there were, I mean, it became obvious she was a prostitute and there were clients, she was seeking her way out.
Yeah.
But from that point of view, it didn't make sense why they'd be haunting her, because in the end, bloke gets a bit of sex, goes off, even forgets the person exists.
Yeah.
Job done. So why they would be haunting her made no sense until we get the reveal.
Right.
Of what's going on.
They're
But
in
then
the walls. They're in the floors.
Yeah, that
was so
that's
creepy.
the only bit that took me out of it.
Yeah,
Nobody
that
else
was.
the-
Yeah, because it didn't look like she prepared the bodies at all. She just stuffed them in there.
Yeah, that would be leaking.
I don't think, like, what's she going to do? She doesn't know shit about shit. You know, she's like, I'm just going to throw it on the wall. It'll be okay. What about the smell?
Yeah, it's a stinky part of town. No one will notice.
They're right next to a French restaurant. It's going to smell that way anyway.
She's like, no, that's just the cheese they imported this morning.
Right. And she brings up that clue at the very beginning, too. She's like, it's going to smell like garlic. Yeah, you better like the smell or you're not going to smell it at all. So that would definitely help cover up the stench of rotting corpse 2 inches away from you at the foot of your bed. I don't know, Dimitri and Damien in the chat, thanks for joining if you're human. Are you Russian bots too?
Yum to go, yum for the What the fuck?
Those are
yeah, we got
songs.
bots. We actually have a creepy dude fucking follows around. It's a bit weird.
Really?
Yeah, we managed to pick up a creepy dude that keeps like jumping on. It's like,
never needs one. Never needs one.
That's when you've made it.
Yeah. You got the creeps. They're our own faceless men of pleasure. What was your least favorite part of this film, if you had one?
For me, like I said, it was just main chick's voice. Like that accent, it just threw me off the whole time. She sounded like a cartoon character.
Yeah. But even when you like see her talk in her natural voice, it's still kind of like that.
Yeah, no, it still definitely is.
It's just her.
Yeah.
I keep meaning to watch. I keep meaning to watch Old. I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either.
That's one on the list. She's in that. You know.
Oh, really?
It popped up on Amazon. Yeah. It's one of just I don't know about whether it's know nothing about the movie or haven't heard anything about it, but I keep meaning to click on and have a gander.
She was also in Jojo Rabbit, that's a fun one.
Oh, dude, that's the best. Oh, god damn, that made me cry.
Same.
It was so fun, laughing and crying the whole time. It was beautiful. She was 18. Like, she's the exact age that she's supposed to be in the film, which rarely, if ever, lines up with anything. Usually like 47 and you're playing a high school kid. So I thought that was great because she did have that natural innocence of someone of her age, especially nowadays. I mean, people are so sheltered nowadays that an 18-year-old now is like a 14-year-old back when we were kids. So just as far as their sensibilities are concerned. And so it is really nice to see that she had this air of innocence, but it wasn't acting. It's just genuine. And I actually really liked that about it. But like the fact that her mouth was an inch wide and her accent, her voice was, that was a bit of a bug for me.
I think, like I said, she's really trying to do that accent. I mean, Cornwall is a difficult one.
Yeah.
West Country in general is difficult. I'm not even going to try it.
I was going to say, is he doing it? Give us a taste.
Hey boys, we're all down the choo-choo or something like that. It's really fucking, hey up. That's more Yorkshire. like I said, the regional accents in the UK are just bonkers. You just I'm an example as well, you know.
Yeah. Well, what was your least favorite about this film?
Mine was the student party in the halls of residence.
Right.
That scene, you know, her. I'm like you knew she was deliberately coming in to have sex just as a dominance thing, and get out. It's all. I'm like, oh fuck, it's not going to be one of these teen fucking student movies the whole way through. That would have taken me right through it. So that scene just made me think, oh fuck, it's not going to be like this the whole way. If not, I'm gonna be noping out. Because I can't be annoyed with teen drama, you know what I mean? It's boring.
Yeah, no, it's painful. It's physically painful to watch.
I couldn't even do it when I was a teenager.
Yeah, I didn't like kids when I was a kid, so I like them even less now.
It's even worse. My least favorite, I think, is the tone for me is just really off-putting. The very beginning of the film is like a whole different film than the rest of the film. And if I felt like they could have leaned into it a little bit harder at the beginning to give me that edge that we start to get in the middle of the film, and certainly it's like hitting us over the head at the end of the film. If you see a ghost behind you, I want there to be an element of creep, not to her, but to us, the viewer, you know, because ultimately we're looking at it and we see her and we think she's literally there until, you know, she disappears in the next scene as she turns around and, you know, talking about her mom and stuff. So you're getting the sense of, oh, she's special, she's different, but it didn't cue me into that. It was just this normal thing. And I get why you do that for the actor, for the character, I mean, for the role that she's playing. But for me as a viewer, I want to be a little unsettled about it. Like, whoa, wait a second, that wasn't there. Like, holy shit, there's something different than, you know, because we're presented with this dance number to open it, song and dance number, and she's like floating around. It's all cutesy, you know, little kid in her room. Okay, like, but where's the seedy underbelly that we know is there? Like, we're led to believe she is mentally unstable and it's hereditary. We're and that is connecting directly at the very end when we're like, is she actually seeing this stuff, or is she just gonna kill herself because she can't handle, you know, this stuff that she sees in her head? And, you know, like, that's what her mom did, so maybe that's what's happening with her. And you can tell her granny's fearing the exact same thing is happening every time she's on the phone. So where is that in the beginning? Like, why don't you lead me with that?
Yeah. And it's like they almost tried to do that too, because right after we see her and then grandma comes in, she, you know, in a very clearly worried tone is like, are you still seeing her?
Right.
And it's like, oh no, I'm not fucking seeing her. What are you talking about, dude? But it's like, they should have really been heavy-handed on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But at the end, which you saw Sam again, the younger Sam, was a bit of a, okay, what's going on here? You know, they're trying to set her up that.
What did you guys think? What was your takeaway on that? Like, what do you think it was trying to say?
I wasn't too sure, if I'm honest.
Same.
I thought it was...
Especially because there wasn't a level of her being terrified. Because personally, if I saw that, like, saw the catalyst of the fucking horror I just went through for the past bit of my life, just right there at, like, the peak of my life, I'd freak the fuck out. I wouldn't just walk up and be like, hey, girl, what's up? Tink. I'd fucking shit my pants and, like, karate chop the mirror in half.
I liked it because, for me, it was her saying, I finally have control over this thing. Like, we see her spiraling out this entire film. It seems like she's in control at the very beginning. And then, which leads me to, like, get frustrated when she loses control in the middle and then spiraling at the very end. And then finally at the very end, she sees the catalyst to her madness and she's like, no, I don't even have to worry about this because I'm in control now. Like, I've learned the lessons. I've got this. I kind of like this empowering moment of her over her powers instead of being a victim to it.
Gotcha.
But anyway, that's my...
Because we were very blasé about it at the start. And that was maybe the thing. They were very matter-of-fact. Like, the grandmother was matter-of-fact. You have abilities. And it seems like they've talked about it and she knows she has abilities. So she's not like, what's wrong with me? Yeah. But we just didn't get explained as an audience. No way. It was like an in-joke or a secret within the cast. But we weren't explained to, as an audience, what the power was, what the depth of it was. We were just acknowledged the fact that it was there. She knew it was there. She partly knew that's why she was going through it. But, like I said, we didn't really get any explanation. Maybe a bit more at the start. But then again, I don't know about you, but I was waiting for the horror bit. It's like, come on. Here we go. You know, and once that
last little jump. Yeah.
Yep, that last little jump, and then it just started to escalate. That's what, okay. Here we go. We're in it now. So I was expecting it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if changing this movie would make it better or worse.
I'm afraid it would make it worse, which is why I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to do it.
Started
Because I do
I
like
think it's
it.
one of them things that it's it's crafted well, but it's fragile. So if you started changing elements of it, you'd derail the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think if you changed anything about it, it would make it obviously it'd make it a different movie, but I think it would make it a movie that's already been made, as opposed to its own entity, just using elements.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so IMDb gave this a 7.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is 75% certified fresh, 90% audience score. And I think the majority of the critical response about it not being higher is that it swung for the fences, and what it did really well, but it didn't really stay consistent in tone. That's what I'm getting out of it. But ultimately, I don't think it matters because it is its own thing. It doesn't feel... I mean, yes, it's a giallo film, but that's a genre. So, it's tipping its hat, as you had mentioned at the very beginning there, Cameron, to some of the other masters in the genre, but it's not stealing from them. And it's actually adding to it in a very interesting and creative way. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So let's do some ratings of our own if you guys want.
All right. Well, so our rating system, since this is new, you guys should probably know. We're going to give it knives in a back, scale of 1 to 5. 1, of course, being this movie was garbage and I wish I was dead, and 5 being like kill me now because this was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. All right.
So
what did you
for
give
me,
it, Cameron?
5 knives in the back because fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
Like when I say I'm obsessed with it, I'm not joking. Like this is. It's a breath of fresh air for me because again, that's like one of my favorite subgenres of horror is giallo. Like I live for that shit.
Yeah. And
same again. 5 Knives. Like this has been so refreshing. We need more movies. I guess we need to be challenged.
Yeah.
We're not getting challenged. Everything's so fucking blasé, by the numbers, boring at the moment. We need to be. You know what I mean? You need to be thought. You don't need to be preached to.
Yep.
You need thought-provoking movies that make you think. And this is what that was, and I think some of the stuff's deliberate. I don't think it was bad script writing, why the movie is what it is. I think it's purposely designed that way to throw you off your guard, that you're not sitting comfortably going through this. You have to actually pay attention. And I have not seen a movie like that in a while, and I miss it. I miss going and have to think my way through a movie of what's actually going on here and looking for the cues and actually pay attention to the dialogue and not just, oh, here's the plot, sing, music, flashy lights, the end. Everything's explained for you. You know what I mean? There's still, we could have discussions about this, about different elements, and we could take it apart in different ways. And I miss that about movie making, and I hope 2022 is going to start getting us back into that again after all the stupidity. That we're going to start getting more movies, I guess, because that's the whole point of the horror genre as well. The horror genre is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable and not in your safe little bubble and knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Horror is supposed to be about the unexplored, the unexplainable things that happen to you, and that's why it's frightening. It's because you don't have the answers and you don't know what's going on. And more of this, please.
Yeah. I mean, hey, fucking Argento's making a movie for the first time in like a decade or two this year. So
wow.
I think this might be a decent year.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I gave this 4 knives in the back. I already mentioned why. Just I felt it was a little inconsistent in tone, but other than that, I think it's a masterpiece of a film, and I'm very excited that it exists, and I'm hoping that we get, to your point, Colin, more films like this that make us think, because it's nice. And, you know, really every little critique of mine, if he would have explained it, would have been too hand-holdy. And so I like that he didn't. And, you know, I like that it's upsetting in some scenes, and I like that I have to question why I love this film so much, no matter what, because it means that I'm thinking about it, and that means it's great. So,
and we need to think again. When we've got to the point where we're expecting too many people to think for us, and we're not doing our own thinking. That's just a societal thing, you know. And we need to get back to actually think for ourselves. And guess what? You don't have to be right. You just have to think and ponder and question and wonder what's going on and wonder what's going on within yourself. Because that's the whole point of art as well. Art is meant to be that you look into yourself through the medium, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we need that. As humans, we need that stimulus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this film?
Think
No,
we about
it's
got it.
All right.
very enjoyable experience, and it's one I can watch again. Definitely,
Yeah.
you know, that's
For sure.
that's always a test. I could put this movie on again and enjoy it.
Yeah, I highly recommend everyone check it out for sure. Thank you all so much for tuning into the inaugural episode of Haunted Grove, a horrific podcast. The only way you can find out when the next Haunted Grove episode is coming, creeping up on you through the shadows, waiting to jump out at you, is by subscribing and clicking that damnable bell. Don't forget to like the video while you're at it.
And check out our other social media because we'll put up various posts there, as well as our other segments, Horrific Tales and the Horrific Talk Spot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have a great one, guys.
And
Don't you got a
If-
helpful tip for us there, Colin?
I think so, because it's important you stay alive for the next episode. So remember, folks, don't open that door.
Instead of it.